Hey everyone, this is Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I just want to invite you to join us for our upcoming Prospective Student Weekend, which is from April 13th to 16th. This is the same weekend as the Grace Agenda Conference, so if you're headed over to Moscow for that, you can register your visit also for the Prospective Student Weekend at nsa.edu. Two great events, graceagenda.com and your Prospective Student Weekend here at NSA. Hope to see you there and enjoy the podcast.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And it's a sunny day. And
Beautiful
we're sitting in
day.
the car with gas in my car
Well, we hope.
on a sunny day.
But the engine's off, guys. It's warm enough for us to have the engine off.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a good time.
So
So we're on spring break. The tail last
The final leg
skinny
of
end
spring break.
Spring break, and I didn't get done what I wanted to get done, but
Nor did
well.
I. But we took our kids skiing last week. And it was so funny. It was our first time skiing. We just got passes to the Bunny Hill because you can't raise children in Idaho, in northern Idaho, and have had them never ski. It's like fishing. We take them fishing on principle. You have to know that you came from a place where you have fished in your life. You can't live this close to fishing and not do it.
Right.
So we've done that. We took them skiing, and it was so funny because the last time I skied was probably like 20 years ago. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And Luke's never downhill skied, coming from the Midwest where there are no hills. So, from the hillless territory. He'd cross-country skied, but never downhill skied. So we just got tickets to the Bunny Hill, like just everyone on the Bunny Hill all morning, which was so funny. Moses would have none of it, even though his skis were like 18 inches long. He was just like, I don't like them. He wasn't going to do it. But so the first time up the chairlift, I'm like holding on to Shadrach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is a little sketchy. Your slippy snow pants. There's no bar on the Bunny Hill chairlift. There's nothing stopping you from just whizzing out the front of the chairlift.
yeah.
And so the first time up, I'm holding on to him. He, here's how it is. Everybody was wiping out on their first trip down the Bunny Hill. So it took me a long time to get to the bottom because I kept having to stop and help people get their skis back on. And so by the time, but I'm like partway down it when I see Shad passing me going up on the chairlift alone, waving at me like, "Hi, Mom." I was like, so my real intense like arms around him the first time up. Second time, he's just getting on the chairlift alone.
Okay. I have to tell you my story now.
Okay,
Rich.
I'm ready.
Here it is, and it pertains to yours. So we took our kids skiing also, and we just got back last night. And since it's
They
so
go beyond
late,
the bunny slopes, though.
Yeah, see, Ben grew up skiing. I'd only done it a few times in high school and college. At the best of times, I'm a terrible skier, but Ben grew up skiing. And we started taking our kids like 3 or 4 years ago. We started trying to do it once or maybe twice a year, but we hadn't done it at all this year. It's the very end of the season. And there's this really weird place that we actually really enjoy going. And it's about 4 hours south of here, but it's actually probably a major tragedy in many people's lives, but for us, it's really hilarious. So because I don't know,
the failed resort,
well,
right?
They were trying because like Idaho is like all mountains, so of course you could have amazing skiing here, and of course Sun Valley. Obviously, Sun Valley's known for that. But that's like 10 hours south of us.
And it's also crazy expensive.
Yeah,
Sun Valley.
yeah.
Sun Valley is true resort.
So this in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, they try to put in what I think they were trying to rival like Aspen and Sun Valley, like a major resort. And I don't know what happened, but everything went belly up.
Everything but success happened.
The investors pulled out. Like,
didn't Ben say Andre
Agassi
was his name?
he was some of the money behind it, and then he pulled out. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it coincided with the housing crash. I don't even know what happened, but it is this massive resort with huge buildings still in Tyvek, and like the sticker's still on the windows. Total ghost town weird. You go up to the top of the mountain, there's this big lodge that looks like it would be actually really awesome at the top of the chairlift. Totally empty, vacant.
Didn't
and then
Ben say that some of their chairlifts got repoed?
one chairlift got repoed. But so now they're just running just the slopes, and they have these little pop-up sort of like yurts where the lodge is and stuff, where you go in and buy your ticket. So it's this major like stone and timber and huge buildings sitting there
Buildings
in
of
Tyvek.
broken dreams.
And then you've got, and it's giant. And anyway, and it's like really fun skiing. It's like a 3,000 foot drop top to bottom, if you take both lifts to the top and everything. And so Ben found this deal where we rented a little cabin like right on the slope. Like you can just ski out of your cabin down to the chairlift. And if we rented the cabin, which was also like dirt cheap, it was like $200.
Because you're in a ghost town.
But if you do that, all the kids skied free.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going here.
You've got to.
sometime.
So next year, Rach, you guys.
Yeah, next year we'll definitely go to.
So it was like this really fun. Like it had a hot tub. You're looking right out at the chairlift, and so it was kind of like the height of luxury to be able to just go back to the cabin for lunch, like take all your wet stuff off, lay on the couch, make lunch, then have some cocoa, then go back out to the slopes again. Like instead of being all soggy in your boots in the lodge, Anyway, this was all great, but this leads me to my story. So we got there in the evening, move into the cabin and everything. We were going to go out right when the chairlift opened in the morning at 9. So we get on out there. Well, there are a grand total on this mountain of 17 people skiing. The guy told us
I should have said it was us and the handles on the bunny slopes.
Because we're really late in the season. So it was 17 people on the whole mountain, and we were 7 of them. So we didn't blend into the crowd at all.
Yeah.
So
well, there was no crowd. There was no crowd.
When I tell you that we merkled it hardcore in the morning.
You're telling me that there were 10 other people who know about it.
No, they weren't even there yet. We were the first ones to the chairlift because we're like coming out of the cabin, like had our fun breakfast and, like pancakes and bacon, and we're ready to go. We go on out there and get to the chairlift, and it's this huge, huge chairlift, and it had been kind of raining, then it turned to snow at the bottom of the mountain. And so the chairlift was the benches were like ice and then a little skim coat of snow on top of it. And this is, we're the first customers, and we have not skied since last year. So, it's all a little bit.
Warming up.
We're just getting into the swing of it. So we pull on up there to the chairlift, and Jemima Bell and Knox hopped on one because they're 4-seaters. And they get on one, and then it was going to be Hero, Judah, me, Ben. So starting from the left, Hero, then Judah, then me, then Ben. Well, as we sort of shuffle on up there, something got discombobulated in the sort of move forward. I don't really know what happened. It all happened so quickly. So
as it does when you're skiing.
Yeah, something happened there. And I was kind of like got sort of pushed out the back, so the chairlift
cleaned you out first?
No, it gets to me first, so I just like sit down. We weren't in a good line, so then the other 3 sit down, and I think because of this, like our skis were maybe tangled up or something, and Judah sits down kind of half on my lap, and it was like, wow, okay, and so he like scoots over, and we're going up, and it was like, okay, we're good, right? And right as I say we're good, right, Judah swoops off the chairlift, taking me with him at a lightning pace. Rachel's actually choking on her coffee. And no, Rachel, and my skis take Ben.
My word, I have a lung full of coffee. Your
I
skis
go
got bent?
So I clean out Ben and somehow we took Hero's skis with us, but not Hero. and it happened like so fast.
Oh my
that
word.
I was like, I just
Did Judah fall?
all three of us splat.
I mean, did he
off.
fall and then you and then Ben?
It was so fast, and Ben was so like, that did not just happen. Like, did not. And the thing was,
How far away were you from the start?
So here's the thing, like, it was almost.
Oh, my heavens.
That was almost like a tragic story, because if we had been any higher up, we would all be dead. But it was, because the way it goes up so quickly. But we were still on the sort of, I think we fell like 7 feet though. Like, and Ben stuck the landing. Like, he actually just landed on his feet. I splatted, just full splat on the ground.
Oh, my
And my legs are like twisted up in a pretzel. Judah's kind of on top of me. It was like, and then there's Hero.
Hero's
high on the chairlift.
What did she do? Run in her boots off of the chairlift?
No, because the thing is the lady was like, well, we're just gonna have to send her up after they like pick me up off the ground.
They didn't stop the chair.
Yeah, they stopped it. Like, they stopped it right when it happened. And so Hero's hanging there. That's how we know it was probably about 7 feet, because she was up above Ben's head, and they were going to just send her up, and Ben's like, no, she can jump down to me. So she jumped, and Ben caught her. But meanwhile, I don't even know how these bruises happened, because they're like we hit a bed of river rock. It wasn't even like snow.
This is so bad.
It was so bad. But like I said, Ben hit on his feet, and Judah kind of landed on me. So I was the one that came out just bruised
Mauled?
and battered. I have like a bruise like you have never seen before. But here's what I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Humongous bruise on my right hip, and then humongous bruise on my left knee.
How could you have done that?
I'm asking you how that happened. But anyway, so that was our big like, wow. And then
Welcome to your day of skiing.
yeah, like that was great. And and it was seriously, I so wish there was a
group wipeout
blooper reel somewhere we could find that would just show us what we did, because we don't know what we did. We just had half the family fall off the chairlift together. Which is not really on our bucket list, but now I can say I've done it. And the thing is that, so then we go up to the top, we ski down, get everybody warmed up.
Oh, you made me weep my mascara.
Oh my word, I know.
Face and inhale my coffee.
But then second time on, we sit down, and this time it's just Jemima, me, Ben, and we begin to go, and right around the second pole, Jemima's ski just falls off. Nothing, no reason, just falls off. So then she did have to do the thing of get off the chairlift with a little run ski.
How'd she get her ski back?
Well, Ben had to go down that run to find the ski, and then I tried to stay with Gemma on one ski, getting all the way back down to the bottom, because there wasn't really a good place to sort of hang out at the top. It wasn't good weather. It was like blizzarding. Like, you don't want to stand around for 45 minutes waiting for Ben to get back. So she did the one ski down. So anyway, I just felt like, as Jemima said, we were basically the only people there. So we had to provide enough drama that a whole crowd would have provided. But the burden was on us to do it.
It was like the expectations were high, and you guys had to really pull through for everyone.
At the best of times, I'm a terrible skier, but with a
beat up before you begin.
I like a nice green circle. Like, that's a nice green circle is just what I can handle. Put me on the blue ones, I have no fun, and I don't even want to talk about black diamonds. Like, I'm not into speed. I just want to have a nice little meander.
Yeah,
you know?
well, because that's what's so fun, the beautiful scenery,
let's meander. Then we have Knox, who scares me to death. I tried to, of course I don't look. I'm not on the black diamonds with him. Yeah. But anyway, so that was our little expedition yesterday.
Oh, my word.
And I have the bruises to prove that I fell
that
off.
Is really good. I waited until the end of the day to tell my whole family that I never fell.
Oh,
I
good
was
job,
like, I
you.
waited until the end to make sure that it was clear that I could say,
Well,
guys, I didn't fall down.
I
I remember the first time I skied, wiping out, like, when you're standing still, like,
Yeah.
in the standing still for the chairlift and wiping out and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh, man.
luckily a man came running out and said, "Here, let me take your skis off." And I was like, "Thank you," because I was just so weirdly kind of disoriented, and my legs were all tangled up and the skis were going I didn't know where, and they're all like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like laughing my head off like, "Yes, I'm totally okay. Oh my gosh."
I think the first
But the
time
problem
that you
was-
went skiing, they didn't come back with a long video of you sliding down, trying to stand up but sliding
was
down.
so funny.
But the thing that makes it so perfect is that in a video, you cannot at all ascertain how steep the hill is. It looks like you're basically just sliding down a,
oh yeah.
less than a bunny slope. It looks like just a straight surface that you
No,
can't
it
get a
looks
grip
like I
on.
just can't stand up. I was looking at that slope yesterday as I went past, and I was like, it is stupid steep. I mean, it was really steep. And it was so funny because it was the very end of the day when your legs are quivering, because you've been doing
blame
it.
you not.
And then I splatted, and it was so steep I could not get back up on my feet. So I'm doing this amazing glacier move, like spread eagle, splat, sort of hover, splat,
And the
drag,
fact that
splat.
Ben stopped to film it was just
I know.
to bless you forever with that.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough about our rollicking good times for spring break.
I know. If you don't watch yourselves, I'm going to post pictures of my bruise
Yeah.
with a quarter next to it for reference.
For size comparison. Oh my goodness.
No, it's like the size of the river rock I landed on. I mean, it's
Oh,
like this,
ow.
like the size of a softball. So bad.
Not cool. Not
Oh,
cool.
I know, but it's
so
funny.
I have to say that our last podcast where we were
Oh,
not
dear.
we were not the gentle
guarded?
life coaches.
We were not guarded.
We were not. We were just going ahead and calling everyone complainers and fussers.
We uncorked it a bit.
We did. And I thought it was interesting that the response was so overwhelmingly positive that nobody was mad at us. Or if they were mad at us, they were so mad that they spake not to us.
That's
They
also
were
a
so mad that
possibility.
they discontinued listening to us, which is fair. It's all right if they did.
yeah.
But I think that the reason I was just thinking it's interesting to talk about because I've noticed this, that I actually think that women are hungry for hard words.
no, edit that.
Women who
care about
love
being
the
obedient,
Lord
yes.
are hungry for hard words.
Women who
And-
care about their sanctification.
Yeah, and our grandpa, I think, is he quoting someone else who always said hard words make soft hearts, soft words make hard
And he
hearts?
says hard teaching makes soft hearts.
Yeah, I quote it real well. I've heard it my whole life, but I get it wrong. But
Hard
it's the same
teaching
thing.
makes soft hearts.
Yes, and
Soft
soft
teaching
teaching makes
makes
hard
hard
hearts. And the thing is that this is so true. Like when someone comforts you in your sin or struggle, when someone's like, "It's okay. There's nothing you could have done about it." Like, I'll tell you, somebody shared this. Somebody, I should say, not of our faith, shared a video from like this, oh man, I want to say it's called like the power of positivity or something. It's one of those sorts of you can do it
Right.
if you whatever. But it was the most appalling. It's one of these ones where it's like a picture. The picture changes with the text over the, it's like a read the video.
Yeah.
But on and on and on about to the mom who's locking herself in the bathroom crying because she just can't have any time to herself. Like to the mom who's eating tons of fast food in the parking lot while she's mad at everyone. To the mom who cries because she just wants to be left alone. To the mom, and it's like over and over, and it goes on so long where you're like, this is the most despicable person you could have come up with, because not that it is saying it, but it is like low points.
Yeah,
for
we've all had
a
low
low
points.
point, but it's a
Yeah.
long string along of horrifying low points that was like the worst day a mom's ever had and behaved badly, and like
Yeah.
they were all that strung together. And then it finishes with like, you are worthy. You are enough. Like, there's no, like, you are wonderful. You are beautiful.
Keep
and
crying
you're like,
in that
how
bathroom.
do you know? Because I'm pretty sure that this kind of behavior is not worthy. It's not enough. It's not beautiful. Like,
No.
this is what we need to be saved from. Like,
Yeah.
this is the bad side. Like,
Yeah.
this is not okay. And
Okay, so this reminds me of the time the dad was driving back to his house. We were not with him. We just heard about this. And down at the bottom, they had this long driveway going up a hill. Down at the bottom by the main road is a sort of a ditch with a little kind of seasonal creek in it, like where sometimes it's got a little trickle at the bottom, and then in the snow melt, it's, like
Okay.
gets to be a sort of a creek. Muddy most of the time. And this was a low point in the creek, I believe, kind of summer, but muddy, puddly at the bottom.
oh,
And
I'm like,
there is a
could not
woman,
remember this story, but I
a
think
drunk woman, lying in it, just lying in the ditch, in the mud, kind of in the puddle, and not getting out. So he stopped, obviously, and, tried to see if he could help her out. And she was rude and ugly and refused to budge. Like, refused
You're
any attempts at assistance.
how
She's
dare
like,
you? How dare
"I'm-
you think I should
I'm
get out of here?
in this ditch, and I'm staying in
And
the
I
ditch.
cannot get out.
And it's like the kind of ditch that probably has little bits of garbage down
there's
in
just
it.
no earthly reason to
No.
be stuck in that
No.
ditch.
No, and she's just lying in it, refusing to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is we've all had those moments where you're in
Yeah.
some kind of down and out mood. And there you are, you're lying in the ditch,
Yep.
resisting all attempts at assistance.
And you're like, I cannot be got out. I cannot. This ditch is unbearably
no, but
difficult.
she was
for
kind
me.
of like, I like this, I'm staying here, you jackass. Was
Yeah.
kind of the the
But
general
the thing
gist.
about this is that, well, my point is that without Christ, we still want to be right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're aware of our sin and we want rightness. And so we end up coming around with these platitudes, which is really
but
just frosting over.
But, do you really feel like what would help that woman is to stand around the edges up top and say,
You are beautiful.
worthy.
You are worthy.
You are genuine.
You are so fabulous.
I love how transparent you are.
I love what you're doing here. What you're doing here just speaks to the difficulty we all experience.
You're opening your heart to us.
Well,
You're showing
but
us the way forward.
The thing that is sad is that it's genuine, like failing, difficulty, tiredness, frizzled, like sick of it. Those are real genuine, normal human problems.
Yeah.
But the solution is not to pretend that they're not a problem. like it is a problem. Like, this is wrong. This is not okay.
Yeah. Well, being tired's not. It's when you
No, but this
Splat out.
list in particular was all ugliness. It was not saying things like when you're so tired. It was like when you yell at the kids and then you feel so guilty because you're the worst mom. Like, it was really like genuine things that someone should probably repent of.
then
in
you
all
go and
of the
stress eat all of
instances.
their Easter candy.
Yeah, and then you spit at your kids when they're walking by you, but you love them so much because you're wonderful. Like, it was really a sad little mess of a thing. But the point is, it's like this effort to provide compassion for our hurt and like, you are enough. It's like, enough for what? Like, this is definitely not enough.
No,
like,
no.
this is definitely not worthy of anything.
No,
Whatever.
but talk
And-
about healing the wound lightly. I mean,
yeah, and in the end, I didn't watch it all the way through to the end, but I think in the end it was trying to say, this is just a hard season, and it is hard, and you'll come out of it, and it'll be okay, and, it was that kind of a thing. But mostly I just think there's a lot of women who are hungry for hard teaching because they desire Christ,
not be in
and
the
they
ditch.
desire soft hearts, and they desire and because of that, I think there's a major shortage of the hard teaching. Like, it's very difficult to find.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have an easy go of
You
that.
kind of have to look to another century, practically. It's like there are...
Right. My mom, our grandma, who Grandma Greensides had, so our granddad was in the Air Force, and he fought in both the Korean War and World War II. So there was a lot of time that she was home and alone and with kids. I think he wasn't even home for 3 of the kids that she had.
Maybe.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that's right. He was gone, you know, and that she was at the home front
Yeah.
with 4 little kids, you know, while she didn't even know if her husband was alive. And Mom asked her one
And
time.
no FaceTime to just check in. You had to wait for the letters.
You had to wait for the letters, and he sent. Do you remember that? Well, of course you remember it. We all remember it vividly. He had all these home movies, and he would play for us sometimes on the big reel and the projector, and home movies of all of his travels and interest, you know, things. But he played the this one that was a little Christmas video that he and a friend made for their wives who were neighbors, and it is just them goofing around, you know, like sitting on these 500-pound bombs, smoking and riding their at the end they ride in a little Jeep with a little sign on the back that says Merry Christmas, you know, like, and they ride away. And I remember it as a kid being like, I remember the video, and I don't remember it now. It never made me emotional as a child because I couldn't even process what was happening.
No.
Now, even the memory of it chokes me up because Grandma would cry the whole way through it. She said, she and her friend would get together and watch that video every day and just bawl their heads off, right? Of their husbands goofing around out in somewhere where they're going to die. Like their feeling of like, we don't know if they're alive or dead, and here's their sweet little goofy, you know, gift. And I like it. We're both getting teary even just talking about it. Well, but the point, Mom asked her once, how did you do it? Like, how did you keep going? And she said, Nancy, it was just my duty.
Yeah.
She said, it was my duty. Like, it wasn't like I was, and it's true that when everyone has the whole culture had hard things going on. So you got no special.
No.
There was no special treatment for someone whose husband was at war because everyone's husband was at war. Like, this was how it was.
But
and she's like, my job was to be here.
I think also our culture has lost entirely a sense of duty.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as things are hard for us, we feel like, well, all bets are off now because it's hard for me.
Well, didn't you not see that this was an emotional day?
Well, sometimes it's like, what do you think you promised at your wedding?
Right.
I mean, for better or for worse actually includes for worse.
Well, and richer and poorer.
Right.
Sickness and health. Like, we do all of these things.
And there's a reason that those things have always been included in the list of things that you got up in front of God and witnesses and promised
and vowed
to do
till death.
Till death. Every day.
Till death do us part. Which means that if you're not dead, then you have a duty. You have something you should be doing. And I think the duty is such a great, like, as I think about that, some days where you're like, man, it's just a little. In fact, spring break, we've had some beautiful weather. It's been fun, but we've also had like the rainy, dark days where you're like not sure what we're supposed to be doing. Like where it's like, what's on the docket for the day? What's, you know, things are just a little bit more like. It's just odd because it's not your normal routine. It's like, okay, we're in a different place now, and but something that I'm like, actually, it's totally helpful to just be like, well, Rachel, what's your duty right now? Not like, what do you feel like doing or what would make us feel better? What is your duty right now? And it's like, oh, well, I think right now my duty is the laundry. Like that's actually a priority right now because this is one of my duties. It's not a one of the things I do when I'm in the mood.
No.
It's a thing I do when I need to do it.
How bad, flabby, and obese everyone's sort of spirits have gotten. You know, like since the time when people understood the concept that you do your duty, there's a nobility in doing your duty, there's a nobility in sacrifice, there's a nobility in putting others first. We've totally lost that as a culture. And even though we prioritize like chiseling your body and having your body be hard, everybody has the most flabby, weak spirits.
Well, it's not so much that we prioritize it. We admire it. And there's a section of the population that prioritizes it like crazy.
Well, that's true.
And then there's a section of the population that just feels guilty about it and thinks they should.
Wishes they had it.
But we don't do it about who's fiercely just doing their job all the time.
Unless it's CrossFit. Then we admire their like, look
Go
at
to
how
itness.
they just did it.
At dawn they rise and they do repetitions. Like,
Yeah, but it's like-
but we don't think like, isn't that amazing that she gets up and does this every day, or that
Yeah.
he's off to the office every day so faithfully, or just
Yeah.
doing, like, go to your post and do your duty.
Do your duty.
And it's so important for moms to do this, because it is really, really it's an important thing for your kids to learn. Like, that we don't get up and check the wind and our feelings for
No.
what, like, it's like, no,
No.
you need to do your duty. I read a really interesting article about an interview with a Swedish man who was talking about the, Swedish socialism, how it's always held up as this great example of of like what we could all be if we just tried harder.
only we tried
If we
harder to
just
be
tried harder
Swedes.
and we could be Swedes. And it was really an amazing, he was like, no, socialism was just the stink festival of the world in Sweden. And he said, but the thing is that we had this time of really open and free capitalism, so we built an insane amount of wealth.
Yeah.
Then we tried this experiment, which failed us very badly, and
Yeah.
we pulled out of it by loosening up a lot of, it was not working. But that one moment where we were burning off all of our wealth,
Yeah.
everyone thinks of as the pinnacle of, like,
Yeah.
we should do that.
Yeah.
And there was a great quote in the article anyways that was like, how do you get a small fortune? And he said, well, you start with a big one and you make some mistakes. I was like, this is so perfect. Anyways, it was an interesting article. But one of the things that he said in it, talking about why are young people so attracted to socialism, and he said because they don't know yet about what happens in the world. It was like, for the most part they think that resources are just there to be had because
Right.
they've been supported by their parents their
Yeah.
whole life, so they don't know what it's like to just not have a resource, like to just
Right.
not to just be a
So, I see all these cookies. I think it would be nice if we evenly distributed them.
Yeah.
Rather than
He said plus-
somebody's making the cookies.
Yeah, and
here.
he was like, plus people don't understand. He said, if you say, okay, so there's all this money, how should we divide it among these people? And everyone's like, fairly, evenly. Like, we should do it exactly evenly so no one has an advantage. He's like, okay, well, what about the next round of money? What if 9 of these people spent all of theirs on things, but one worked really hard and invested it and saved and made a lot more money, and then all of them are like, well, yeah, he should have that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone did that and you're like, right, so then you're back to not being socialist. You don't understand the whole picture. But anyways, the thing that I thought was funny is he was just saying, not understanding a life in which you don't have this kind of privilege.
Yeah.
And I think that is true. You really have, I'm applying it loosely to this, but it's true that we have no concept. Like, we think it's hard to stuff our many laundries into a machine that does it for us.
Well, okay.
Right? Like, it's like we have all of
I was thinking
this.
this the other day, that, like, actually the kind of very common funks that women get into about, I just feel so bad, and I just feel like my life is not what I wanted, and I'm fat, and I don't feel like I don't
notice myself getting invited to interesting parties.
And so I can't, and I'm just staying in bed, and people just, like, you don't know how bad it hurts.
Just ordering
this
takeout.
kind of thing. I was like, that weirdly is a sign of absurd luxury. The fact that you have the luxury of nursing a sad attitude in bed is like, can you imagine, like, just
No
even
joke.
picture like Pa and Ma on the prairie.
There wasn't a Tuesday that she could give
No.
to being in a funk.
But she's like, no, guys, make yourself toast because I'm I just, like,
no, if you wanted to live,
It's like-
you did your duty.
and
like,
so it's really funny that we have gotten to this place of absurd luxury, and what we choose to do with it is get
spend it on our bad
morbidly,
tunes.
morbidly grumpy.
It is really it's like such a stupid kind of a bummer to get into that.
But
like,
it's also kind of a weird whirlpool where I think it's kind of hard for people to get out of, because there's this mutual affirmation that happens where, everybody will gather around, even if it's just Facebook posts, will gather around and say, but you're worthy, you're wonderful.
no, because everybody feels like they are trying to, like, throw you more flotation devices.
And the thing is,
right?
there
And they're
actually
like, here's what will help.
I feel like we're just talking about people who don't have large scale problems, like just regular
or
old
their
people.
problems or
but the thing
spiritual
is,
problems.
I know
not-
that there are people out there who genuinely have large scale hardships and tragedies and difficulties. And I feel like there's actually a whole history of martyrs and faithful saints through the years who have undergone huge things, and we all
Horrible
look
stuff.
at that and
Yeah.
admire it, but it's like, I don't feel like it's often that people think to emulate that, you know, when a big big wave comes.
I do actually think that the people who are, well, we're not talking about people who are in the midst of really, really hard tragedies and
No.
providences. We're talking about the normal life of the normal Christian who's
Yeah.
getting into a funk about something.
Right.
But at the
Right.
same time,
You're mad at your husband.
At the same
but-
time, with believers, it's far more common that we get derailed by the things that don't make us think to pray constantly. When you have it is common for a believer to do well in really difficult situations where they turn to Christ because it's the only thing humanly that they can do. You know what I mean? Like where there's
Yeah.
prayer and support, and they are focused on God in a different way. It's a heightened. I'm not saying
Well,
that
what's
everyone.
that thing Dad says about when somebody says there's nothing left we can do but pray?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's come to that.
Yeah, right? Oh shoot.
We've tried every other thing.
Things are so bad that I have to pray
No,
about
but
it now.
I have a metaphor from my bad skiing.
Okay.
So, as I said, I do not enjoy the real steep slopes because I don't like being out of control. I don't like going super fast. Unlike some of my children who just point their skis down and go. And so yesterday, as I was doing a slope that was much harder than I liked at all, after like blitz crashing at the top several times, I then took a different technique. And again, I'm a terrible skier. I'm not saying that this is a metaphor for skiing. I'm just telling you this is a metaphor for what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Is if I'm trying to you're trying to cut sort of back and forth down the mountain, as I'm just looking down this ridiculous, endless, way too steep thing,
Yeah.
you go like one or two cuts and then suddenly lose control, blah, and then it's like big,
Yeah.
splat crash. Then I changed my approach where I would just look across the slope at a tree. I'd pick a tree, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just gonna go
there.
there. And then as I turned,
Hopefully
I would,
not all the way there. Just part of the way.
try and stop a little early. But as I turned, I would then pick another tree straight across. Just look there. Don't look down the slope because, the more
gets
I
out of
looked,
control,
the more I
yeah.
looked down the slope, the more terrible
Yeah.
it got. And when I did it like that, it was fine. I could make my way right on down, and it was all good, and I stayed in control, the whole time.
You
But
needed to not take the big picture.
it's I didn't know. It's better to not have the big picture. Just focus on this right here. Just go for that.
And I said this is kind of, this is back
But
to.
I was going to say,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
metaphorically. I mean, that's pick something close. I'm meaning pick that, pray about it, aim for that. Just do.
Make it faithfully to dinner time, and then make it faithfully to bedtime.
Or
and
just
then
make it faithfully till 10 o'clock in the morning. Whatever it is, just pick it,
Mm-hmm.
figure out what you're going to do, pray about it, anchor yourself, and then pick the next
Like,
thing.
okay, that's what I'm
rather
gonna
than,
do, and then we're gonna do the next
fritzing
thing.
your way out.
And not
all
like,
the
this
way.
whole day is killing me. and there's two ways that people do this. I think I wrote about this in Little Yurts, but I used to do a 20-minute thing. Like when it was total chaos, I would be like, I can cry in 20 minutes. And I would say, I know that's
Set the
funny.
timer.
But I'd be like, if I feel like crying and throwing in the towel right now, I would look at the clock and be like, I'm just going to work hard for 20 minutes and then see where we are. If it's still this bad in 20 minutes, I have permission to cry from myself. But I have 20 minutes to.
But see, that's what I'm saying.
In 20 minutes, I almost always could have spanked the offender, changed a diaper, nursed a baby, got someone down for a nap, cleaned up the accident or
got
whatever.
the dirty diaper put outside.
Yeah, like in if I actually just said, okay, I just have 20 minutes to be cheerful and faithful and work hard and do what I can.
Yeah.
Then at the end of that time, I'm free to cry if I need to. I never needed to cry. If I worked hard for 20 minutes, it would all pull it together.
Because the thing about it is, I think that wallowing, in my experience, generally begets more wallowing.
Oh, yeah, because you start being like, another thing I could fuss about.
Right.
Let me cast my eyes about for more things.
The fact that I'm fussing and I just can't get out.
It's just the worst.
I'm in the ditch.
Yeah,
I can't.
But one thing I was going to say is that 20 minutes was good. But the other thing that I think is really important for young mothers who are in that kind of blindingly difficult phase, that the phase that feels like I'm going to die before 5:30 tonight. And if I don't die before 5:30, then I'm definitely not living through this whole stretch of my life that's going to be like this every day. Because there's a big window here where you're like, there was one of the things that I always thought was especially hard about morning sickness is that you feel nasty, but you actually know how long you're going to feel nasty.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're like, just 10 more weeks of this is not actually really encouraging. No. Like, you're like, it would be more fun to think any minute now I might feel better, but instead you just know this is a long haul. Well, the thing, whether it's not morning sickness, but in that time with all of your kids, when it gets really intense or where you're like, I can't even enjoy a conversation at the dinner table. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I make dinner, nobody likes it. I do this where it's frustrating and you're like, I'm doing a bad job. This is horrible. When you're in the middle of that and you're thinking, and I have years of this, like it gets really discouraging. And the thing that is important to know is that even though right now you have a really nasty side ache, like you're having this moment that's a bad side ache on the run, and you have so many more miles to run. Right. It doesn't, like, the fact that you have more time to run says nothing about how you're going to feel, because God does give you relief. Like, be faithful, and there will be moments where you will get a second wind, where you'll have a lot of joy in your children. You'll see these funny things that they're doing, and you'll feel like just keep on and don't get depressed about the big picture, because
partly don't let your feelings be your guiding light, because your feelings are going to change.
Amen to that.
The other thing is, like, in the same way that wallowing seems to beget more wallowing, doing your duty actually tends to perk you up.
Oh, look.
And it turns out you might want to do your duty again. Yeah.
But but the thing that I meant is, in those times that are like crazy chaos that feels like not even necessarily sin chaos, just the chaos of like, I can't find clean jammies for this child and we're out of diapers and who did this. But
see, like, none of us would, in the moments where your house is like totally blitzed and it feels like it's overwhelming and everything's bad, none of us would be like, well, I might as well just squirt some motor oil all over it now. Nobody would do that.
Spiritually speaking, we do that all the time.
It's like, there actually is no situation in your life so bad that you can't make it worse by having a big, nasty attitude about it.
And the crazy tangles of little kids at home, which is my point was more that those moments of tension where you feel like, I can't do this and I have so many years to do this, that those are the times you need to think, I need to be faithful right now and trust God that he will give me a foothold. Like, I know that this is going to go on for years, and there's no time that God doesn't provide that. If you are being faithful, you will have the foothold. Yeah. Like, you will have, and I think it's like in Prince Caspian, where Aslan is telling Lucy to follow him, where they can't see the path until they're just following him, and then they're like, oh, there actually is a path down this cliff face. The obedience of following Aslan, even though it doesn't look like a good path choice. Yeah. And you're like, no, let's go down. Let's go down this way. And it's like, no, that won't work. But if you follow him, there is a path. There is.
I think that there are lots of commands in Scripture, virtually all of them, go totally counterintuitive to the way we would want to do things.
Which is why they have to be said.
Yeah, and when we're told things like, be patient in suffering, or be, how does it go? Patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. What's the first one? Joyful in suffering, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer.
Yeah.
Nobody intuitively is joyful in suffering. And so you could either look at that command like God is just asking me to do now something even harder. Like first the suffering,
Right.
now he's making me be joyful also. But actually, like in your following Aslan thing, he's actually showing us how to get through it. He's
and
not,
how to be with him.
he's not, and he's not making it worse. He's showing us the path through the sorrow, the path through the affliction. And so if we actually obey him, it's not an additional burden. It's
Right.
the way that he takes the burden away.
Yeah, and I feel like I say this all the time, but in John, when the disciples are like really worried about Jesus, they're worried about Jesus leaving them, and you think like, how would they not have been worried about that when the only thing they knew was actually Jesus in the flesh? Like for us, it's funny that we've never known him actually like that. And the thought of them being like, but Lord, we don't want you to go. And he's saying, if you love me, and he says that over and over, if you love me, keep my commandments.
Yeah.
And then he says, and I will pray to the Father, and the Father will send the Comforter. I will not leave you orphans. He's saying, obey me, and I will intercede for you, and the Father will send the Holy Spirit to be with you. But the thing is, all of it starts with, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right. If you really love me so much, you will obey me and be constantly in the Holy Spirit.
And look at what the commandments are, because I think it's very easy, and I see this all the time on social media. People saying, but God would never judge, he would never judge
when you're
this
crying
or that.
at the sink instead of doing the dishes. God doesn't have any thoughts on that.
It's like God just loves you, and you're just his precious daughter, and he would never judge you for. And it's like, that is a dangerous thing to say. He actually told us in his book what he would judge us for. and it's
don't start
not
saying
good.
God would never do the thing he said he does.
Because I did hear that recently in a conversation of but God would never, he's not here to judge us. And I was like, well, let's be honest.
No, he
actually
judge.
is.
He's the judge.
He is the judge of the whole earth.
Since we're talking about
and he judged us in Christ.
This is a wee touch off topic, except for we're talking about judges. Okay. And that is that I just always am this is a thing that rankles me every time I hear it. People say, oh, well, I would have to know all the details to judge that. Where people say, oh, I'd have to know. And I was like, you really think that is what stands between you and a righteous judgment? You think that if I knew all the details, then I would be equipped to be a good judge? And it's no, I'm sorry, you're not God. When you say, I'd really have to know everything in order to accurately judge that. It was do you have no perspective on yourself? You're not the judge. That's and it's funny because you say, no, defer to the holy judge who gave us his commands.
And he was actually not vague.
No, real specific. He got into the details of our life. And one thing that I think is, you said this earlier, you're saying about not basing things on your emotion, and we talked about your wedding vows, is that Dad always uses that illustration of if you make your vows anchored to your emotions, then your vows are going to be riding up and down and all over the place all the time. But if you anchor your vows to the Word of God, that is an enormous slab of granite that is going nowhere, then your emotions are not affecting. Your emotions go in and out, and you are tethered off to the Word of God in a way that is not at the whim of our emotions. Yeah. It's not oh, I don't feel like being nice to my husband today, so today I'm gonna not. It's no, I made a vow and I'm gonna stick to it.
And what is it that you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, check that real fast before you choose a course of action today. Just soak that up. Okay, so, you have a tip?
I think. Well,
sorry.
I have 2 tips. Rach, 2.
I get prepared. I need to I think of tips all of the times when we're not doing a podcast.
Start having to have a little Post-it note with you.
Work harder on that.
No, first one. Today is Friday. On Monday is March 19th. The Riot and the
Oh,
Dance
yes, Riot and the
comes
Dance.
out in theaters, and you totally should go and take your kids to this because
Yeah,
it's
you
really
should.
going to be very awesome.
Somebody asked about why is it rated PG, and I think I don't actually know the details on why it is rated PG, but it is because of, it is just
Well, they talk
because
about
of death. Because there is, and that's actually part of the wonderful nature of it, is, you watch a not unbelieving nature documentary and they don't know how to cope with anything. They're like, the beauty is meaningless that it's here. The death is just another factoid.
A thing
Yeah, it's
they're
just
doing.
a thing that happens.
And there's a lot of discussion
So the discussion
in it
of
about
death and the bad,
The effects of sin
the effects
on
of sin
creation.
and creation being broken in that way it's not something I would have no hesitation in my kids watching it. So it's not
No,
it might not. It's possible that your
little kids.
little kids, you know them better than I do, but they might be afraid of the actual animal, like the snake but they're not.
I don't know, but
It's
they
not
won't be
something-
bothered by the discussion of death. It's just,
No, but there's some. I mean, it's not like a.
I just mean if they're too little, they won't even
No.
understand what's being
There's
talked
nothing
about.
really to be.
There's no
concerned
swearing.
about. Yeah, no. So,
So that's one thing. That's my first tip is go
Yeah,
to
definitely.
Riot and the Dance. So it's just going to be one night in theaters, March 19th. And there's lots of theaters, 800 plus?
there's a lot. Yeah, go
Around
to
the
if you
nation.
go to the website, you can find the theater near you.
Yeah. So we actually have to drive to go to it. But anyway.
Yeah, we do.
There's none in our town. But anyway, that's my first tip. My second tip, though, this is what I have come back to. I don't know why I stalled out on this. Pickled red onions. This is the best thing in the
Yeah.
world to have in your fridge all the time for all purposes. So I started doing this again, and I even made some on our ski trip because I happened to pack a red onion and vinegar. But it's like the easiest thing in the world. And you take like red wine vinegar, 3/4 of a cup, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and put it in a saucepan and just heat it up to where it's, boiling. And then pour it over a sliced red onion, cover it with saran wrap, and then just toss it every, few minutes.
I pickle red onions also.
for like 45
now we're
minutes or
talking
something,
about.
and then put it in the fridge. They're just quick pickled onions. It is so good on a sandwich, on a salad. I even did it with I made lentils and then did some fried eggs on
Okay,
it for
so-
breakfast the other day and put pickled red onions on top. So
I
good.
have to tell you my hot tip.
Tell
my
me.
hot tip is
Tell me.
another version of pickled onions. I do it
Okay.
multiple ways. One is when I have half a red onion, I just slice it up and put it in one of those little short mason jars.
Yeah.
And I put a little dollop of brown sugar on top, and then a big glug of apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
And then I just fill it with water to the top, put the lid on it, put it in the fridge.
So
And they're super good.
okay. Well, I don't put sugar in it, but it's similar. But I just heat it up for a minute and then pour it
Yeah,
over.
because you're doing a quicker
But they
pickle.
turn
But these,
beautiful. They are the most
Yeah.
beautiful color. They are
Yeah.
so pretty on top of stuff.
so I do that. The other version I do is lime pickled ones for pickle and lime juice
Oh,
for
that'd be good.
Mexican food.
really good.
I was on this binge of trying to find a casserole I didn't mind a long time ago, and besides
work?
lasagna, I believe in my heart that a casserole is practical. Being
Yeah.
able to put something in the oven and then do all the dishes of the prep while it's in the oven and be ready to eat. There's something really
I've never-
great about that.
Other than lasagna, I'm with you. Enchiladas.
Okay, well, I did
Can be
find
that
one
way.
that was just outstandingly delicious. I was
Okay.
like, well, this is amazing. It was a black bean chorizo. It was a really, really yummy. It was sort of a version of a enchilada, like a layered enchilada, but it was black bean and chorizo and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then it had roasted pepitas and lime crema and lime pickled onions
it
on
sounds
top. It was
good.
beautiful. The trouble with it is that I was like, yes, a casserole that is beautiful and delicious. But yes, I was making a
lost
monster,
all- yeah.
a monster mess, toasting chilies to make a sauce to go with it.
You
I was
lost
doing
the ease of the
I
casserole.
I went too far into
I think if you really want what is the heart of the casserole genre,
I don't want that.
No, I think what people want there is you open a bag, you open a can, you open a thing.
It's called
from
the
the
can
freezer.
of this, box of that special, right? But I don't do that.
No, me neither.
Not that I just don't. But anyways, my point is I like the idea of something in a baking dish. Anyways, in that time, lime pickled onions, it was like red onions with just lime juice and a little bit of water and salt, I think. And they were really good.
Yeah,
and really
I'm sure.
good on top. And the lime
But I
crema
just
was
feel
really
like
good
this
too.
is the kind of staple to keep in your fridge because there's basically endless uses for gorgeous hot pink pickled red onions. They are just
They
the
make you
best.
feel better about everything you're having.
Breakfast, lunch,
Yeah.
and always you can use
So
them.
that's our recommendation.
That's our recommend.
Lime, cider vinegar, and red
I did it
wine.
with cider vinegar on our ski trip, and they were really good too. So anyway, but I don't put sugar. I just did salt, and it was
Tiny bit of
really
sugar is good in it.
Yum. And
But
then
I
you
do
just
quick
store it
pickled
in the
veggies.
juice.
I do quick pickled other veggies a lot, where you boil the brine,
Yeah.
fill a jar with like random selections of veggies, peppers and cauliflower and stuff, and then you just
Yeah,
pour the
that
hot
sounds
liquid
good.
over it.
Yeah.
Green beans are really good in the summer. Quick pickled beans are really good, and it's like a nice fresh side for like if
good.
you have a sandwich. You have a fresh pickled veg.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Have a
That's
good week.
what we've got.
Talk to you another
All
time.
right. Bye.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.